In this video, I'd like to take some time to show some important lost functionality with actions in Acrobat DC by comparing it to Acrobat X. So here we can see I have Acrobat DC loaded up, and I would normally go into the Actions wizard and pick one of these actions to run. So by this icon here, I can tell that these actions are Acrobat DC created actions, and then these other icons are legacy actions that I created in Acrobat X. So first, before we look at how those work in Acrobat DC, let's look at how they work in Acrobat X. So this is another computer that I have here. This is Acrobat X active right here, and these are the actions that I have here. Okay, so in this particular use case, which I do all the time, I have two different directories of files, and I need to take these files that I have selected in this directory, and I need to put an obsolete watermark on all these files, and then I need to replace those files with the newer files which are in this directory here. Okay, so these need a different type of watermark and some other actions that I apply to make them open up and look a certain way. So let me take you through that process. So let's start with this directory here. I'm going to first watermark all of these files, and then I'm going to put them in this obsolete folder here. So to watermark them, I use an action in Acrobat. It's this one that I created right here to add it. And let's just let's edit the action real quick so we can see what it does. If I click on edit, I can go through and I can edit this thing. It's got a certain watermark function. It just saves the file over the existing file and closes it, and that's it. Okay, it's a pretty simple action in this for this particular step. So let's run the obsolete watermark file. Click next. I have this set up to prompt me to add files, and normally you can click here to add files. I can even add open files if I had a bunch of files open, but I never picked this here because the fastest way for me to add files is just to go to this directory, grab all those files, drag and drop them into this window, and it adds them right here. It's real fast. And what I like about this is it allows me to jump back and forth and run actions on multiple files in multiple directories without too much trouble, because usually I already have those windows already open in File Explorer. So let me just run that action on all these files, and we'll see the progress here gets updated. And it's done. Now, notice that it did not actually open any of those files, which is great, because it goes a lot faster this way. It saves me a lot of time, and I don't have to worry about closing all those files up or anything like that. We'll see how that works in DC in a little bit. Okay, so I've watermarked all of these files here. And so now I'm just going to take these files and I'm going to move them to this obsolete folder, and there, I'm done. So now these files up here need to have a certain processing done, and that's this other action that I run right here, and it is a bit more involved. I've got the steps outlined right here. We could edit the action and see how that works. So if I go here and say process other specs, edit, you can see it's doing a watermark, it's setting some open options, and then it's saving over the existing file in that directory. So it won't prompt me where to save it or anything like that for this particular action. So I could run it from this window here. I think in the new DC this option doesn't come from, or is not available anymore in the Manage Actions window. So let's just run it. This is normally how I run it. I just come straight to the toolbar here and click Process Other Actions. You can see what it's going to do. Click Next. And again, I have it prompt me to add files. And again, I could pick all the open files. I could browse to a folder, add files certain files in a folder, or all files and all that stuff, the usual stuff. But again, I would rather drag and drop, because now I'm in a different directory like this. And if I was to go back and forth between different directories on different drives, on the network, and so on, clicking this Add Files button here and then going to different folders and everything, it's quite a bit more work. So let me run this here, and again we can see the progress, and there it's done. And again, the files are not open or anything like that. So my next step is to now take all these files that I have in this window and drag and drop over to this other directory right here. Now let's try this in Acrobat DC on this computer. In Acrobat DC, I have these same actions over here. Here's my legacy automated action there that I created in Acrobat X. So if I click on it, and you can see it does the same sort of thing right here. I click Next, and now it's prompting me to add the files. Okay, so if I come over to this window where I've got my temporary files and I try and drag and drop, you can see nothing happens. Let me try that one more time. Try and drag and drop, nothing there. Okay, I can click on this Add Files and I can pick right here, and then I can go and then I can pick them, but I really don't want to do that because it's just a lot faster to use the existing File Explorer view that already shows and has those files selected, especially when I'm going back and forth between this directory and this other directory, which are completely different locations. So that doesn't work right there. And then if I go to Manage Actions here, and the one that I just tried running was the Process Other Specs, and you see once I select it, the Edit and Rename and Copy and Export, all those buttons become disabled, and that's because it was created in a prior version. It would be nice to be able to at least have an upgrade button or something like that that would upgrade it to maybe the current version of Acrobat, so that I then could edit, rename, copy, and re-export, but it doesn't give me that option. So instead I did try creating a new action in Acrobat DC, and you can see that it does allow me to edit, rename, copy, and export. And if we look at this, the way that this is put together is a little bit, it's the same, but the way the options are presented here, it's not quite the same. So like a default option is to add files. I could pick add folder and so on, but none of this has an option to add open files, which would help a little bit. Also, you can see here that I have some other, it's prompting to add something else like a directory or so on, which I really am not interested because these directories can change from time to time. So I really want it to prompt me and ask for a directory or ask for files to be added, which I can then drag and drop. Now going back to my workflow, these files need to be obsoleted, so I'm going to pick that action here, and this is again my legacy action. It's asking to add the files. If I try and drag and drop, see, it looks like it's going to be able to drop them and add them in. I can see the icon there, it says it's going to copy and so on, and then if I let go, nothing happens. So my only option at this point with my legacy action is to add files. But this isn't even the right directory that I want to go to, so I've got to go through quite a process to switch over to the other directory and pick these files right here, when really all I want to do is just drag and drop them over to here. Okay? So let's forget about processing that action because it's too much trouble. The next thing would be, of course, now I want to process these guys. So let's pick this process other specs action that I created in Acrobat DC. And you see you can set, it says to select files to be processed. Okay, well again, I'd like to drag and drop into this box here, kind of like in that legacy action. If I let go, it's not adding it to that box, but it's rather opening all of those up, which I definitely don't want it to do because I might be selecting hundreds of files and not just a handful of files. So let's go back to the Tools tab here. It says Add Files, and again, okay, well I have these open, maybe I could add the open ones, but I don't see that option here. If I click Add Files, it's taking me to that directory instead, so I'd have to pick those files, and I just happen to be in the directory that has those files that I want to process. But if it was a different drive or something like that, again, I'd have to go through, navigate through all these different drives, folders, and so on when I'm already there in File Explorer. So I'm just going to close all of these, and let's just go through this process now. So I'm picking all these files. I'm going to click Open, and it adds them to the list. Okay. Now, just for kicks, let's try taking one more file. Let's try drag and drop. And you see, it does seem to indicate like it might do something, like it might add it to the list. But again, it just goes and opens that file up. So it's kind of a pain, and I wish I could get that old functionality back like in Acrobat X. Let's just run this. Now let's see what the difference is. See, it's opening each file one at a time. And remember, in Acrobat X, these files didn't open up. It just did it all in the background. So this process of opening the files up does slow it down a bit. It does take considerably longer. And if you're doing hundreds of files, then that's a huge difference in time. Well, going back to Acrobat X, this has the functionality that I want, that I need. Again, being able to just this thing right here, having this window, being able to drag and drop files just like that, and then run it without opening them is what really makes the difference. And I wish this functionality was in Acrobat DC. So if that could be added into this, then that would make Acrobat DC much more usable for me and anybody else who runs this sort of thing on a regular basis. And of course, the other important thing is being able to edit any one of these actions, even if it was created in a prior version of Acrobat. So, take this action here, for example. I would like to be able to at least edit it and at least give me a way to upgrade the action to work with Acrobat DC or use Acrobat DC commands instead of legacy commands or something like that. It can save me quite a bit of time because you can see I've got a pretty good list of different actions, and in order for me to make any of this work or be able to utilize or modify them in Acrobat DC, I basically have to create them new right now. So that can take a fair amount of time. Thank you for taking the time to look at this.